What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? Stan here from Cryonoir, and today we are talking about what is, to my mind, I'm going to say it is the best console ever made. Now, I know that's a huge claim, an absolutely ridiculously bold, crazy claim. If you looked over the content in my channel, you'll see I have a lot of consoles. I don't have them all, but I certainly have an awful lot of the big players, and some of the smaller players, shall we say. But this console, to me, is the best, even more than the Mega Drive. And I've done like a full big long video about the Sega Mega Drive and about the Amiga and everything. But this right here is the console that, for me, is the best console ever made. And if you've seen the thumbnail and you've seen the title, you know that is the Xbox 360. Ooh. If somebody was come to me today and say that they were thinking about getting into gaming, they didn't know anything about it, they were, sort of new to gaming, and they wanted to see what all the fuss was about, I would immediately point them in the direction, get a 360. You can pick them up for about 50, 60 quid. Huge library of amazing games, and it's just a peach. It's just a peach of a machine. It wasn't always that way. It had a few problems. But you also notice in my other videos, I generally hold them up and waggle them around. But I can't do that so much with this one. And I will explain why in a little while, and some of you will probably already know just by looking at what kind of 360 this is. So the 360 launched in November 2005, and by sort of early 2006, the entire world had it. It launched initially in the US, obviously, with it being a Microsoft product, and then before the end of 2005, all of the UK and most of Europe had it, and then, it trickled out across the rest of the world, and by midway 2006, certainly by the end of 2006, the whole world had it. I picked up my machine in 2007, late 2007, and that's kind of important as well, which I'll get to as well. And it ran for, a little over 10 years, which is quite impressive. That's a really long time for a console to still be current gen. It ended sort of in 2016, and its lifespan, it sold 80 million copies, which is a huge amount, an absolutely massive amount, which, again, it's testament to how good a console it was, particularly for the money. So there were three main different iterations throughout its lifespan. With a lot of consoles, they do that kind of thing. They make smaller versions or cut down versions to try and save money and to try and, sort of keep it semi-relevant. But, like I said, keep costs down, reduce the costs. Now, Microsoft didn't really do that initially. They released the second one. This one here is an OG. This is an original Xbox 360. This was the sort that came out in 2005. And this was this came in sort of three variants. So it was the arcade, this one's the Pro, and then they also released the Elite. And then in 2010, so sort of about 5 years later, they launched the 360S, which is by far and away the best one to get, and then also the 360E, which was like a kind of just a general like design change, and it was slightly smaller, and that came out in 2013. The main reason why they had to do the alterations, so rather than just cutting costs and making them cheaper and stuff like that, they had to do it because of the infamous Ring of Death, the red Ring of Death, which is where on the front, these little, these lights, it was actually only three. People seem to mistake it was four, but it was actually only three. But because all three were glowing, it made the other one look as though that was glowing. And that was a general hardware failure, because this was launched, it was a tiny small form factor for how much horsepower it had for its day. So they used to overheat. Well, what would happen is they would heat up, and that would cause heat expansion in the metals around sort of the CPU connectors and all around there. And what would happen is it would then move within the motherboard mountings, and then it would then not make proper connections afterwards, or it would, slightly detached from the heat sink, so then it would overheat. So that the three rings of death was just basically different warnings. So one of them was kind of a CPU failure, one of them was a warning about too much temperature, one of them was a power supply failure. But because everything was all going haywire, then all three lit up, and that was it. Your console was bricked. The reason why I'm not waggling mine around is because it is an original from the time when they did used to cook themselves and when they did used to do the red ring of death. And mine hasn't. I've had it since 2007, so we're now in 2018. So it's it's an old console. It's 10 or 11 years old. That was notorious for breaking down, and mine, touch wood, hasn't at all. It has never missed a beat. One problem it does have, which is a very common one for all Xboxes, both the original Xbox and the 360. I don't know about the new one, but the original Xbox and the 360 is the disc tray does not open. Well, it doesn't open. If there is no disc in the disc drive, it does not open. I found that an easy hack for it is if you leave a disc in there permanently, which is again why I'm not wiggling it around so much because there's a game in there. If you leave a disc in there, it will then just open up and close perfectly fine. But if you close it with no disc in there, then that's it. It dies. That's a bit of a pain. That can be fixed with with just some soapy water. Believe it or not, you don't even need rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol not supposed to be ideal. There are some rubber bands that connect everything like that. Basically, you pull the tray out, you get some tweezers. You pull the rubber bands out. You wash them, clean them, give the little wheels bit of a clean, put the rubber bands on, and theoretically it should fix it, but I find just leaving a disc in there is easier. Another unique thing about my 360 here, which is why I'm also really quite precious about it, is because this 360 does not know that there are any other 360s in the world. It has never been on the internet ever at all. I got it when I got it. I had no internet up in my room at the time, so it never got connected. And since we've moved to the house, and I've never felt the need to connect it to it. So as far as this is concerned, it thinks it's Jesus. It thinks it's the only one in existence. It's never been. Doesn't know that there's an outside world. It's just as it is. And I love it, and that's why it's carried on, because it thinks it's important and special, so it doesn't want to crap out and die. And it still gets an awful lot of play today. In fact, actually, I would say I play on that as much as the PC easily, sometimes even more, just because of sort of the nostalgia that I have for it. Even though the majority of stuff I collect for is for sort of cartridge-based systems, sort of NES, Mega Drive, and things like that, I still have the biggest collection of games for the 360, and it's the one that gets played the most. I just think it was such an of its time piece. It was such a really good piece. I can remember playing. I'd gone from having an original Xbox. I remember getting the 360 and plugging it up and seeing HDMI for the first time. That first taste of HD gaming, 720p, 30 FPS, and it just mind blown. In fact, actually, I was playing Forza the first time I played it, so actually it was 60 frames a second as well, so I was hitting 720p 60 frames a second, first time ever experiencing that, and it just properly blew my mind. I absolutely loved it. So the most important thing of any console, and the biggest reason why it is successful and where Microsoft got it right is two things. It's got to be fairly cheap, and it's got to have an amazing catalogue of games and lots of games. And the 360 did not let you down on either of those. I do have a fairly reasonable collection of games. It's not the biggest collection of games, but it is fairly reasonable. I have a total of about 75, something like that, 74, 75 games. So obviously I'm not going to dedicate a huge amount of time to each one. I'm probably going to do them sort of franchise at a time, actually, and just go through them and just sort of say why I think these individual franchises are amazing. I don't have a huge amount of filler in my collection as well. There is a good chunk of junk in there, I'll be honest with you, but most of it is just stuff that I really love and play sort of either regularly or certainly come back to on a regular basis. I don't have as big a collection as Anita Sarkeesian, so clearly I'm not as big a gamer as she is, but I think I'm doing alright for myself. So let's crack on with the games. Around about the time of the 360 and the PlayStation 3, there was a real shift in the types of first-person shooter games that we got going around. Up to that point, there was an awful lot of World War II stuff, and the sort of going over to the kind of modern warfare, kind of an advanced warfare kind of style, transitioned during that time. So you at the beginning you had some sort of World War II kind of games, and then they all sort of suddenly got phased out. So Call of Duty 3, which is one of the last of the World War II shooters from the original. I know they've gone back to it now, and there was a little bit crossover, but this was kind of one of the last of the originals. And there was things like Big Red 1 and stuff like that. I believe that was Call of Duty. And I also have World at War as well, which is absolutely amazing. That's a really, really good game, is that one. I sort of rate that every bit as high as any of the Modern Warfares. It's really, the tone of it is really, really good. It's just a really class game. When I actually picked it up, one of the first games I got, I wanted Modern Warfare, which, you know, had only just come out. And yeah, that started a bit of a love affair that the whole world had, and that has now eventually died. Modern Warfare. I got Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3. Controversially, my favourite of all the Modern Warfares. I know a lot of people don't like that one. They think Modern Warfare 2 is good. I think Modern Warfare 2 is spectacular, but I personally prefer 3. Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, so both the Black Ops. And I also have Ghosts, which is by far and away the worst. The absolute chuffing worst of the Call of Duty. It's an absolutely terrible game. And I don't have all of them. I've got Advanced Warfare for the PC, but I still need that for the 360 and some of the earlier titles. And I believe there was another one as well. Black Ops 3, I think, came out for the 360, so I've got most of them. Its major competitor was the Battlefield series, and I've got a fair few of those as well. I got Battlefield 1, Bad Company. It's just called Bad Company. Now, I got that around about the same time that I got Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare 1. Call of Duty 4, however we're going to call it. I got it at the same time because I wasn't aware of this franchise at all. I'd seen the other one and all the hype around it, and I even went into a game shop and I said, I want a first-person shooter that's kind of modernish, not World War II. I want something. So what other than Modern Warfare is there? And he pointed me to this, and I think this is. This one is the best of the Battlefield games. Everyone's going to hate me for that. Everyone seems to think it's number 4 or it's, Anyway, I think that the original one, that one, is the best one. It had like a real comedy story, which was really good. I quite liked the characters. They were fun and interesting rather than sort of dour and poor-faced and, husky and me. They were all, they were like good fun characters. They were all dead funny and cracking jokes and stuff. It's full of cliches as well, but like tongue-in-cheek. It had an interesting health mechanic as well. Rather than just having regenerating health where you hide behind a wall and everything, you had like a kind of an injection that you would give you that was also on a timer. So you had actual health bar with numbers, and that would get depleted and wouldn't replenish. And then, you would kind of try and get yourself somewhere semi-safe, give yourself this boost, and then you would be back up to sort of full health at least, or maybe even sort of 3/4 health, and then try and keep out of trouble while that regenerated in the background. So, I think it was a good and awful way of doing that rather than just relying on regular regenerative health. I think that's an amazing game, I really do. Number 2 and number 3 and number 4. Because I don't play a lot of these games online, I generally prefer the ones which have the more interesting storylines and stuff, which is why I generally gravitated to the Modern Warfares. The actual player campaign was generally a lot better than it was in all of the Battlefield games, with the exception of Battlefield Bad Company, the first one that had a really good story. Operation Flashpoint. That's a good game. It's a much more serious kind of game, much more kind of realistic, more kind of like your kind of Arma 3s and stuff like that. Operation Flashpoint is a really, really good game. All engagements are done at sort of long distance, and you don't muck about because you will get mullered. The terrible Medal of Honor. Crisis 2. I haven't got Crisis 1. I don't know if that came out on the 360, but I know that 3 certainly did. But I got Crisis 2. That was a really good, enjoyable game. I had a lot of fun with that. Borderlands 2. I haven't got the first one. I'll be honest with you. I did enjoy the style of this game, and a lot of the combat was really good, and I like the overtopness of it. But there were certain mechanics in this which I found really wanting and lacking. But I won't go into that. But yeah, all in all, you might love it, but I wasn't a huge fan. Bulletstorm. This, on the other hand, I was a huge fan of. This is a really, really good game. Totally amazing. Proper wicked. Very childish sense of humour, but great fun. utter fail. Duke Nukem Forever. I love Duke Nukem 3D. Did not love this. I can't begin to say how amazing the orange box set is. Just like, so you get Half-Life 2, you get Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2. So those are like, that's just, all in one box, that's amazing. Or when you get Portal as well, the original Portal, which is fantastic. And if you're into the online gaming thing, Team Fortress 2 as well. OMG. Far Cry 2 and 3. Both of these games I have started. Both of these games I have started to enjoy and really get into, and I've never really picked them up and completed them, mostly because I just haven't had time. With me working full time and also building a game, doing YouTube, doing all the channels, the thought of sitting down to a sort of 40-hour game is just not stomaching at the moment. Like, I don't have the time. I'm really looking forward to the time when I do have the time, because I've got some amazing games to go through that I know are amazing, and this is one of them, and certainly this one as well. I have some really, really good games that have got some stellar campaigns, but I just haven't got time, and I start playing them and I'm like, I need to stop. I can't get invested. I can't get into this because I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to pick it up again. Okay, Syndicate. I haven't actually played this yet, mostly because I've heard it's terrible. I picked it up as a bulk buy with loads of others, because that's another thing about the 360. Collecting for the 360 right now is super cheap. It's the bomb. You can get loads of games really, really cheap. So I picked this up as just as a sort of as a bulk buy. I will probably at some point get around to it. I love the original Syndicate, but this is wildly different and supposedly not particularly good, but I'll give it a go. Titanfall. Never played Titanfall. Haven't played this one, mainly because you need online access to play it. It won't let you play without actually logging in online. And as my Xbox has never been online and I don't want to sully it with the outside world, I haven't had a chance to play it. Neither have I had a chance to play Destiny either. I got both of them for the 360. Again, but just cheap as chips. I think they were about sort of £3 or £4 each, if that. And I haven't been able to play them because because I haven't gone online. At some point I'll get another 360 just to kind of retire this one and keep it like a working original, and then I'll get that one online and I'll probably play these and see if they are any good. The less said about this, the better. It's a tediously terrible, boring game. Kane and Lynch 2, Days Dogs. Bulk buy. Never played it. I've heard a lot of bad things about it. I might try and give it a bash, but when you have such a huge selection of amazing games that are on the 360, kind of the subpar games, or even games that are they're all right, they're quite good, they just don't cut the mustard because they're competing with some absolutely amazing titles. Dead Space 2. I haven't played this one again. Now, this one I am looking forward to, but I still need to pick up Dead Space 1 and 3 so that way I can play them through as a trilogy. From what I've heard, there's some really interesting teardowns online about how it started out as kind of a survival horror. This was kind of survival horror with more action and kind of a little bit less survivally horror, and the third one's just pure balls to the wall action. So I'm really looking forward to getting the other two and then actually giving that series a blast, because it does look like good fun. Gears of War 2 and 3. So I have those. I don't know if the fourth one came out. I played Gears of War 1 for a little while and kind of was a bit meh about it, and years ago I chopped it in back when I wasn't doing lots of collecting. So, and these I've just picked up sort of relatively recently. I'll probably give them a bash at some point. I think I might get one and give it a go again and then just try and play through the series, because there must be a reason why it stayed around for as long as it has. It must be good. So, these are on the to-do list. Hitman Absolution. I don't have any of the other Hitmans, I just have Absolution. It was a ridiculously pretty game. And again, it was a bit of a time sink, and that was why I never really... I did about maybe three missions on this. But each one takes so long because you've got to learn the areas and do all the, learn your way around and sort of watch routines and stuff like that. But it was really good, and a really dark sense of humour. I properly loved it. This is the one where the guy gets the notification from his doctor that he doesn't have prostate cancer and he's perfectly fine, and he's like properly happy, and how could this day get any better as you kind of chuck him out the window and finish him off. It's a real dark sense of humour, really good game. Metal Gear Solid Collection, which has got number 2, 3 and something else. Peace Walker. So I don't know about Peace Walker, but we see Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 and another one. So yeah, I was a huge fan of Metal Gear 1, definitely. I thought that was amazing. I played through that on the PS1. I properly enjoyed it. PS2 version of Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the reasons why I sold the PlayStation 2, because I hated that game so much. And it totally put me off console gaming for a solid full generation. Metal Gear Rising. Aha. Yes. Platinum Games. We like Platinum Games. I haven't played this one yet. I played Vanquish, and I got this around about a very similar sort of time that I sort of found out about Vanquish, so I'm quite looking forward to this one. This one looks really, really cool as well. Lost Planets by Capcom. This is a space wander round in the snow and it looks quite good. This is an early title. I believe they did maybe at least another one, possibly another two. And I don't really know much about this. At some point, I will give this one a bash as well. Moving on, one of my favourite games on the console that I played during the entire time was a really late release title, and that was the Tomb Raider reboot for 2013. Oh boy did I enjoy this game. I 100%ed this game. I absolutely loved it. I thought the open world that it had, although it wasn't a true open world, but it had big sort of open world sections, were all really well done, really interesting. It had an interesting plot and story, which, whilst really obvious, was still really engaging. And yeah, it was just good, solid mechanics, just good fun. I just found it really, really engaging. I just really got on with that game. I probably liked that game. It was really good. Of course, it's not all sort of shooting and the such on the 360, although actually pretty much everything we've got so far has had guns in it, but it's not all shooting. Sometimes you could stab people. The kind of precursor to Assassin's Creed, which was Prince of Persia. I played that for quite a while back in the day, before the Assassin's Creed, or around about the same sort of time. Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 came out, similar-ish sort of time, bit of a crossover there. And I really enjoyed kind of aspects of it, but it was ridiculously easy. I mean, you cannot die. You cannot do anything wrong in this game. Literally, all that's required to beat this game is time, and that is it. And it was okay. It was I quite like the cell shading. I'm a bit of a fan of cell shading, it has to be said. And yeah, it was okay. But of course, that led on to Assassin's Creed, and I was quite a fan of Assassin's Creed, but Gemma was a huge fan of Assassin's Creed. So we have Assassin's Creed 2, the Game of the Year. Unfortunately, it's a classic, but Game of the Year collection. Brotherhood Revelation. Assassin's Creed 3 with special edition metal case for some reason, which I just hang on to just because. Black Flag. Now, I did a teardown on Black Flag, a big long video about Black Flag. I loved it on the 360 when I played it on the 360 the first time. I really loved it, and I 100%ed that. Give or take a couple of things. Some of the stuff you couldn't do because you had to go online, but the bits that you could do, I 100%ed everything you could do offline. And I really enjoyed it. I then went back to play it on the PC and I hated it. So I still don't know if that was platform or what, but certainly at the time I really enjoyed this. And, if you get it, your first playthrough, you may love it. But I would strongly recommend Creed 2. That's the one to get. You'll be able to pick that up for about £3. If I was like if somebody was getting into gaming, they'd never played video games, or they wanted to know what all the fuss was about, why it was so good, I would say get 360, get Assassin's Creed, maybe one of the Modern Warfares, Orange box set, and some of the other games that I'm going to come on to in a bit. Speaking of must-haves for the system, Grand Theft Auto 4. I haven't got 5, but I've got 4, and I also have Tales of Liberty City as well. So the amount of time I put into GTA 4 is unbelievable. Just come off the back of San Andreas, and when I got this, I was playing on an original Xbox that I bought for cheap because somebody had sold it to get 360, and I had that for about 4 or 5 months, and I've been playing that loads, and then got the 360 afterwards and went straight, almost like day to day, went from GTA San Andreas to GTA 4, and it blew me away. It was such a step up visually, and it still kind of holds well today. And a lot of people complained about the kind of somber tone of the game and how it didn't quite match what you actually did, but I really, really enjoyed GTA 4. I think it was a really good title. Sleeping Dogs. Okay, so this is kind of, I would say this is a bit of a Marmite game. It is very much like GTA, only rather than being a criminal, you play as an undercover cop, and it's in Hong Kong. And visually, wow, it's an amazing game, a really, really good looking game. And the fighting mechanics, hand-to-hand combat mechanics are really, really cool as well. You've got loads of sort of finishing moves and stuff that you can do, environmental kills. I did not get on with the driving in this game, which is why it never really got its claws into me. Any game where it has a ram button, so if you're driving along and you push a button, the car randomly skids across the road to ram a car alongside you. I do not like that. That's a terrible mechanic. So immediately when I do that, that just like kills the game for me. So other sandbox games that were kind of competitors to GTA 4, I have Saints Row 2, Saints Row 3rd, and Saints Row 4. And I have played a little bit of Saints Row 4, I think it was, and I did not care for it. I really didn't like Saints Row. I picked them up for the collection, but if it's your thing, that's fine. I can see why it would be people's thing, but it wasn't really for me. I much prefer the GTA series. Just Cause 1. Now, we're on to Just Cause 3 or 4, I believe, at the moment. And I have played Just Cause 1 recently. When I got it, I thought, oh, whack that in. That's really showing its age now. That's really showing its age. I haven't played either of these two. Crackdown, I actually only just got the other day. Crackdown 2, I got a little while ago. And again, I haven't played these. Apparently, these are supposed to be really good fun. So again, I will get into these at some point, give them a bash. So yeah, the sort of kind of GTA-ish, superhero-esque, I believe, with lots of crazy bangs and booms. We're kind of on a bit of a filler section at the minute, but there's so much to go through. As I'm getting to them, so we're on a bit of a filler section. At one point years ago, I got into achievement hunting and trying to get as big a game score as possible. So I got Peter Kay's King Kong. Peter Kay's Phoenix Knights in Monkeyland. Peter Jackson's King Kong, the game of the movie of the game of the comic book made by somebody. It's terrible, but you got an awful lot of points for doing not very much, and I hate every last minute of it. The Bourne Conspiracy? Yeah, no idea. I got it. I haven't ever put it in. I know next to nothing about it, but because I don't know much about it, that kind of almost is a bit of a warning. Lego Star Wars: A Complete Saga. I literally just picked this up the other day. I got a big bundle handout from a friend of mine at work that he'd found, and this was his. I haven't had a chance to put it on. I don't know as if I ever will, but if it is really good, then if people jump on and say it's amazing, then I might do. Remember Me. I am a huge nobody does. I am a huge cyberpunk fan, and this had some interesting ideas in it. Unfortunately, those interesting ideas did not carry through to make a particularly good game. I didn't find it hugely engaging. I got a little way into it and, just felt very bored. It felt very by the numbers and quite terrible. The Darkness 2, limited edition. Yeah, I know nothing about that. It's got a dark cover, a dude on it looking mean. So I have the King of Fighters, which is King of Fighters 10, I think that's in this. No, 12. King of Fighters 12. God, I love SNK. As a recent pickup, I got Soul Calibur 4, and again, this was just one that was in the gift bundle from a friend of mine, so I don't know if that's any good. I think I played some of the really early Soul Caliburs on the PlayStation, but I don't know about this one, so I'll have to give that one a try. Hugely into racing, hugely into motorsport, like massive. I picked this one up, which is Need for Speed Most Wanted, because it's got a BMW E46 M3 on the cover. A bit of a car geek. That's one of my favourite cars of all time, and I got it, and I was not hugely impressed. It was a bit too arcadey for me. I'm not a huge arcade fan when it comes to racing. What I am a fan of is rallying, and to my mind, me personally, the best racing game on pretty much anything ever, forever in the historyness of everness. It's Colin McRae Dirt 2. It's amazing. It's so good. I love everything about this. I love the soundtrack. Visually, it's dead good. A lot of the tracks are really cool. I like the kind of the stupid kind of it's Ken Block and Tanner Faust and all that kind of stuff. I properly bum this game. It's absolutely amazing. Literally, the only way that they could improve this is make more of it. And if there was a way to save your replays, that's literally it. That's my only thing. I would like more of it and the ability to save replays so I can rewatch them, and that's it. But that, to my mind, is one of the best racing games ever made. I also have Dirt 3 as well, which it's good. It's got more, but I don't think it's as good as Dirt 2. I think it's just starting to get a little po-faced and a little bit up its own exhaust pipe. F1 2010, I remember when this came out, strangely enough, around about 2010. I actually played this, I had this for the PlayStation 3, and I put a lot of time into the PlayStation 3 version. I really enjoyed this. It was really good. I quite liked the fact that you start at the back as, a lowly team, a lowly driver, and, finishing 10th. It's just like such a win. Feels like an amazing victory early on if you can make it to 10th. It's really they managed to get that feeling of racing really good, which was awesome. And then I got rid of the PS3, so I got it for the 360, and I put a bit of time into it, but nowhere near as much as I had with the other one because I already played it a lot. And where would we be without the Forza series? So Forza 2, Forza 3, and Forza 4. Each one getting better as they go, really, for no particular reason other than they just look better and they generally have more cars, and that's about it. There are sometimes tracks missing from 2 that didn't make it into 3, and same with 3 into 4. So, sometimes you're like, oh, well, I'll go back and play 3 because I like that track. But, mechanically and all that malarkey, they're all just as good as each other. It's just visuals and the tracks. So, just pick any of those up. And I can guarantee that you're going to have a good time. Okay, you've heard me denigrate and take the mick out of Peter Molyneux and on this channel on numerous occasions. And the downfall of Peter Molyneux, when it really started to go woolly, was the Fable series. And I have the Fable Original Anniversary Collection Edition, which was originally on the OG Xbox, and then this anniversary version came out on the 360. I have Fable 2, which was the first Fable game I actually played, and hot damn, that's a good game. Fable 2 is a really good game. You have to be in the right mindset for it. It's not like, if you played a lot of Skyrim, you'll probably be a bit disappointed by this, but you have to get into it, you have to give it time and get into it. It is a good game, really good game. And Fable 3, which is not. Fable 3 sucks so much. Fable 3 is awful. I never even touched that. We got that one. We were really hyped for it, and Gemma started playing it, and I within like an hour and a half, 2 hours of watching her play that, I was like, yeah, I ain't going near that. But I feel I've saved the best till last overall. Yeah, probably. The Mass Effect trilogy, hot diggity damn son of a moolah. The first one is I'm not gonna lie to you. The first one's a bit of a struggle. It's gonna be I never completed the first one. Because I started on number 2, and then went back to fill in the gaps, as it were. So I got number 1, and it's a bit of a struggle, but it has it's embryonic. You can sort of see where they're going with it. Mass Effect 2, I would say, is probably my top 4 or 5 games ever made in foreverness. It's a seriously amazing game, and everyone hates on Mass Effect 3, right? Everyone hates on Mass Effect 3. It does have pretty of a ropey ending, but right the way up until sort of it all gets proper rope at the end, where you're on Earth and all that kind of stuff. Right the way up until that point, Mass Effect 3 is still an amazing game, and that's it doesn't start to get really dodgy until about 35 hours in. So that right there is a 40-hour campaign, and that 35 hours of that are brilliant. So, just pick those two up, number 2 and number 3, and you're going to have a really good long play session, and trust me, they're amazing. And what would RPGs be without talking about Bethesda, who I know get a lot of shit, and they're not real RPGs or whatever, but don't be such an elitist prick. So I have Fallout 3 GOTY edition, so that's got all of the additional gubbins, sort of Point Lookout, the Pit, Mothership Zeta, and whatever the other one was, Operation Anchorage. There we go. So yeah, I've got that one. I've also got New Vegas. It's not Game of the Year edition because I got that on launch, so I haven't got any of the DLC for that. So at some point, I'm gonna have to get the Game of the Year edition. And then finally, Skyrim. That's those 3 games alone. It's probably 1,000 hours of my life right there. Yes, amazing titles. So you get them. Like seriously, if somebody had never played games and they wanted to get into games and they were like, "What's it all about?" I'll be like, "Right, okay, get yourself a 360, pick up Skyrim, Fallout 3 and New Vegas, Mass Effect 2 and 3. If you're into racing, pick up Dirt 2 and Forza something. And then maybe a couple of the Modern Warfares, and right there you've got yourself a year's worth of amazing gaming. And that's so much to go. And you can build up a collection for the 360 dirt cheap now as well. It is a staggering console. I know a lot of people think the PS3 it was probably their favourite of that generation, and there's a really good argument to be had there. There really is. It is the more powerful machine, and obviously this doesn't have exclusives like Uncharted, which is a big letdown. But you could say flip side, they don't have Gears of War and some other stuff like that. But the 360 was cheaper. And on multiplats, because it was closer to a PC than the PS3, and it didn't have that dodgy cell architecture, it could often outperform the PS3. If you take a 360 exclusive and hold it up against the PS3 exclusive, the PS3 exclusive is going to look better. It just is, definitely. Particularly look at The Last of Us and the latter Uncharted series. Yeah, they are spectacular looking games, and they are very good games, don't get me wrong. But if you take a look at, say, for instance, Fallout 3. In fact, actually, I seem to remember Fallout 3 had a game-breaking bug on the PS3 version that was never actually patched. So you could potentially actually break your game just, by doing... I can't remember what it was, but I know that was a big thing at the time. So second-hand copies of Fallout 3 for the 360 were sort of 25 quid, and you could get them for the PS3 for a £5. An amazing cheap console. And it was just everything was just right. It was I have so much love for the 360, in case you can't tell. And like I say, it is the best console in my humble opinion. Okay, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed going through my collection with me. I certainly enjoyed talking about it. And yeah, what were your favourite 360 games on there? What should I get? What have I missed? I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of quite a few things. But what's your standout title for the 360 if it's not in my list already? And I will check it out, I guarantee you. So thank you very much again for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.